Hello everybody, welcome to Longbangers. This is episode 60, I think. I'm Matty. I'm joined tonight by John. John, how you doing?
I'm good, I had a wee interesting incident just yesterday. So during lockdown, I've been going out and playing a bit of golf with one of my mates, and this set of golf clubs that I've been playing with, I've genuinely been passed around between me and my brother for the grand total of about £12.50, a multi-pack of Whisper Golds and a lottery ticket. But they've managed to stick with me for about maybe 2 years now. So I've been hacking about a council course and up at the driving range since that opened in whatever phase of lockdown it was. So I went out yesterday to get fitted for golf clubs, and the boy took one look at me and he said, "Just looking at you, you're going to need an extra couple of inches on your shaft." And I says, "Aye, but what about my golf clubs?"
And are you allowed back in the shop?
No, they frown on nakedness. They've got very strict rules, these golfers.
Right, that's a good story. Also got Craig on the night. Craig, how you doing?
Aye, good. Just saying, Hibs are back, eh? Well,
Right.
Just can't beat it.
Probably a good place to start then, eh? Talk about the football.
It's been so long.
I know. It's such a nice thing to be able to actually talk about a competitive game of football involving the good guys. So, first things first, then watching it on TV. John, what was your experience like?
Surprisingly problem-free. I think that, so there was a few conversations during the week, I think, with the testing events and Hibs, the guys on Twitter, they were trying to field a bunch of queries from different people with various problems. But actually getting logged on for the test event went dead easy. It was dead simple. I went round to my mate's house on Saturday and got logged in, no bother at all. And
Have to log into your mate's house?
It's a bit. He's got this mad keypad at the front. No, we got onto the. In fact, no, it was through my phone, and I screencasted it or Chromecasted it or whatever.
It's you backtracking now because you've just admitted on, like I say, live podcast, but you've admitted to the world that you've just pirated it to your mate.
And I don't know. Well, he's a season ticket holder as well, so
if you can cast it totally legitimately, that's all right, John. I'll defend you here.
Cheers, Matty. Cheers.
I just wanted to see him fold.
Like a cheap suit. I know it was totally fine. I think the only wee blip was perhaps when Hibs started getting some of the graphics up at the start with the lineups, and it sounded Tam McManus at one point sounded like I used to on the podcast, like he was very, very quiet, and then suddenly it was almost like he burst into the room like one of the characters out of Family Guy, and he was right up against the mic. But he sorted it after that, and actually, like, to be fair, I think the boy Cliff Pike has been doing the commentary for Hibs now online for a number of years, and it's good chat. I think I like his style of commentary because he's talking about Hibs. I can't be arsed with anyone else's commentary because 9 times out of 10, when you're watching games, like the commentators are trying to inject some sort of humour or some sort of talking point that just doesn't exist. But it's good when someone's talking about Hibs. All in all, like it was a good experience, and it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Did you do, so I kind of said you went to your mates, did you do anything else that you would normally do when you're going to the football to make an event of it?
Well, to be honest, I'd had my lunch before, just about sort of 1 o'clock, so I wasn't feeling very hungry, and I was thinking about going out and getting a couple of pies for half time. But I think I've explained before that I've got this weird superstition that I never ever go and get something to eat at half time at Easter Road because I didn't want to miss the start of the second half. Because I was feeling a wee bit full anyway, I just didn't bother getting the pies. So I got a bit of stick off my mate, and then he poured a couple of cans of Tennent's down my throat. So that was pretty good. And you can't. I mean, that was one of the perks of watching at home because you can't do that at the game. You can't have a tin of Tennent's.
Aye, exactly. Craig, what about you? Did you make an event of it at all?
Sorry, I'm giggling away to myself here because all I've got in my head is John. You ever see that episode of Family Guy where it's Pirate Pete? And he kicks in every door and he's like, aha! And I've just got this image of you.
I was thinking of the boy from, is it the Kool-Aid guy? Like the big giant.
Yeah.
But no, I never made a big deal of it, to be fair. I had a video call going on, so I was kind of skipping to and from and watching it. But no, I thought much kind of mirroring what John's experience was. I got logged in dead easily first time for the test thing. I made the stupid mistake the way of I got logged in fine, and then Hibs put out a tweet about the testing's up and running, whatever, and a few guys were having problems. So I'd commented on a few of them saying, "Oh, I done this and it worked. I done that." So I got a few boys like personal messaging me like, "You seem to be all over this. How'd you log in?" I was like, "Well, you flash up the website and you put the details in." I had one boy say to me, "Right, I've put Pat Stanton." I was like, "No, like, you don't get this, are you?" But no, I thought like the whole thing I thought was really good. Tam McManus sounded a wee bit like he was having a wee hammy, a wee hammy under the table, wasn't he? But no, apart from that, I thought it was really good. And you kind of touched on it, Maya. I don't want to steal your thunder here in the text, but it was great to just have something that was fully concentrated on the game in hand. I mean, I know it's a wee bit like green tinted specs. There's a lot about Hibs and that's brilliant. But to have like a pre-match commentary that's only talking about the two teams and not talking about a title race or Stevie G or delivery, just brilliant. But no, I thought. I mean, it was good. It's a shame. I know we're probably going to it now, but I felt it was a shame for the Killie fans really that they couldn't watch the game. And I understand the argument that Hibs sold the season tickets and they were saying that that's the only way that you're going to view it. But at the same time, like people that are going to spend that amount of money on a season ticket are going to do it anyway, and there's always that thing, and for me anyway, there's always that thing in the back of my mind that we're hoping to get back into stadiums soon anyway, so the streaming service might not be around for that long, or it could be here the whole season, we don't know. But I mean, if you're going to buy, you're taking that risk, and surely, at least, especially for the first game of the season, let the fans in.
I think, to be fair to Hibs, I think their decision was based around making sure it worked for everybody, or the season ticket holders. I think they wanted to add any extra complexity to what they were doing by opening up to like a pay-per-view without first of all checking that everybody who's got the season ticket could watch it. I think that was a bigger reason for it, is they wanted to use that one as a sort of test and learn event.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, they should have tested it before, and I know they got everybody to test the login, but something to see whether they could cope with the demand. That was my understanding. It wasn't just a decision to say it's only for the season ticket holders. It was more to say, we want to make sure it works for everybody first.
Did they come out and say that though, like publicly? Because
I think they did. They don't say that in the initial release. Maybe no. I think they implied rather than kind of specifically saying we want to make sure it's only season ticket holders that it works for.
Yeah, because I think a wee blanket statement when a couple of days before when the decision or when it came out that other teams were going to be able to do pay-per-view and we weren't. Maybe they could have just came out and says, "Listen, we're on this new system," and maybe put out a blanket statement just so that people kind of maybe understood a wee bit more. Because I know Livi for the game at the weekend, it's a different URL, but it looks like the exact same website, just yellow.
In that, yeah,
yellow and black. And I went on straight away. Bought my ticket, and I'm hoping that obviously you won't know until game day. But one of the arguments that came out was, well, Celtic are going to be streaming to however many thousand people, and Rangers are. So surely, if the clubs kind of knew that you were going to be able to provide that,
it's a fair challenge. That I don't know if it was just the fact that they weren't set up for actually selling it. They didn't have a system in place to kind of go and say, there's Craig. He's bought this match, and we can set him up in time to go get it. Because it seemed all very last minute. Even the season ticket holders, the information that gets signed on only came out of the weekend. The testing was on the Tuesday and Wednesday for the event on the Saturday. So it could have been something like that rather than a capacity issue. It might have been that they just didn't have the means to sell them. But again, that argument falls away when you've got other clubs doing it. So I don't know. I felt bad for the Killie fans not being able to see, and also for your walk-up fans, but Hibs fans that would have probably happily paid for the game as well.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, John?
I was thinking about maybe trying to play devil's advocate, but you've maybe already addressed this point. You know how Hibs fans can be notoriously fickle. Could you imagine a scenario where Hibs fans buy a season ticket on the understanding that they had almost sort of exclusive access to Hibs Kilmarnock at the weekend there, but then Hibs in the back of it said, well, we'll do a pay-per-view for the away fans as well. Can you imagine that not one Hibs fan would moan about it? Because surely they could have just pay-per-viewed like per game. I know that obviously, I know that there was Hibs fans who would have missed out on that as well. Maybe, like I say, you've maybe addressed this already, and I'm maybe just talking shite.
I think that's one of the challenges Hibs have got, and they'll need to face up to it, is how do you price it? Because they're going to do pay-per-view going forward, assuming we're not back in the stadiums in time for that to not be an issue. And that, I suppose that's the question. When you look at Livi, they're charging 20 quid for the game on Saturday, but then I think Motherwell and Kilmarnock and that are charging £12. St Mirren, £12, £15, round about that mark. And so the question you've got is how do you protect the value of the season ticket if you're selling pay-per-view? But Craig, I think you made the point at the start. Everybody, when I bought my season ticket, when they came out, I wasn't thinking about I want exclusive access to Hibs TV or whatever. I just wanted to be able to see the games. I'm not bothered really what happens with anybody else. If somebody else gets it and they're getting it for a tenner or £5, I didn't really care. My money went to support the club, to secure my seat, because I like the seat that I've got. And then for when we get back in the stadium, I can get in and watch the games. So I'm not really bothered. But I guess there are people out there who maybe think, how did I've spent 350 quid or whatever on a season ticket, and folk are paying a tenner for the game? That's no fair.
Yeah. Here's something else I was thinking. You mentioned before about Hibs could maybe run a test event. I don't know. It would be interesting to know the number of people, like the number of logins that Hibs had at the weekend to watch the game. Like I say, I went to go and watch it at my mate's house, so that was two logins. One login out of the two of us that was being used. One of them wasn't being used. But how do you run a test event for, say, 20,000 people? How do you issue like 20,000 sets of logon details?
I don't think you can.
Was it just unworkable? Like maybe that.
There's got to be. I mean, we're going into like sort of technical details that we've got absolutely no fucking clue about. But there's got to be a way of having like a dummy login and dummy load or whatever. But I mean, people are talking about the prices and all that, and I understand, and it is difficult. It's difficult for Hibs because I can't speak on behalf of other clubs in the way that they sold the season tickets, but Hibs did seem to sell the season tickets on the is it the pretense of what I'm looking for? I don't know.
Pretext.
Pretext, that's the one. The sexy dyslexia. It's probably going to be the only way you can view the games. But I mean, putting that wee bit aside, I've seen a few people complaining about Livi selling tickets at £20 and that, right? All right, you're only watching it from home. You're not getting there, right? But in my head, in my thick skull, if you go to a game and say the ticket to get into the ground's £20, just as an argument's sake, it's not only £20 you're spending. You're going into the ground, you're buying a Bovril, you're buying a pie or whatever. There's more money going into that club, right? So each club's got the right to choose a price to sell a ticket. If you don't want to pay it because you think it's too high, don't pay it and don't watch it. It's the exact same as if, say, you get the opportunity to buy a ticket to go to Ibrox or Parkhead, where it's an expensive ticket. And some people do turn around and they go, you know what, I'm not paying £38 or whatever it is to go, £42 or whatever, to go and watch the football. That's fine. But don't drip and moan and try and say, oh, well, they're doing it for 12, they're doing it for 13. Yeah. These clubs need to get the money that they can to fill the... We've been talking about, for the past God knows how long, about how we need to support Scottish football and look after the clubs and all the poor people at the clubs that are possibly losing their jobs or getting, not even getting furloughed but getting made redundant and all that, and then people are complaining about spending £20 to watch a team. I mean, come on.
The other thing with that is that 20 quid, if there's 3 years watching it, you would have been 20 quid to go in, So, aye.
Long story short, get it paid.
If you want to watch it, pay it. If you think it's too much, then bother. The pre-show is one of my favourite things about it. Like we said, we've already kind of touched it. It was a half hour or whatever to build up all about the Hibs. But I like just before it, Hibs put out a tweet, like a wee group shot of David Tanner and the other presenters that were on, and something had happened to the photo where David Tanner was ski whiff. And when I saw it first, because somebody had replied to him, "What's happened to your eye?" I mean, when you zoom in, he literally has got one eye at the home end and the other one at the Dunbar end. And I didn't want to share that because I didn't like laughing at something like that. But it turns out it was the way they'd applied a filter, and when they'd done the filter, it just knocked his face a wee bit of ski whiff, which is what happened to his eye. But it cracked. It wasn't so much that his eye was in a wonky place; it made me laugh. It was just the fact that was one of the responses. What's happened to your eye?
I wonder why anyone zoomed in on that in particular.
It was funny, but a good presentation. I enjoyed it. I liked it looked pretty slick, like a. Obviously there's some teams first run that they've done it, so maybe a couple of the camera angles weren't great initially, and like you said about the sound on the mics was a wee bit up and down, but overall, like if that's what they're going to be churning out every week, I'd be quite happy to watch that. On to the game itself. Who wants to start there? John, what did you think about the lineup?
I was a wee bit surprised initially, especially because Doidge was missing, top goal scorer, I'm sure, last season, which was probably helped by his 14 hat-tricks. But I know it was a surprise not to see him in the starting lineup. It was a surprise to see Doig in the starting lineup, and this isn't Dougie Tripod. It was a surprise to see Dougie Tripod in the starting lineup. It's not a reflection on anyone's ability or anything like that. It was just that I kind of looked at it and thought that's a bit of a bold move. I quite like that. I still had a wee question mark over Martin Boyle up front over Doidge, but then afterwards, I think Jack Ross had said it was because Doidge had only just recently got back up to full fitness. So I think with the use of the 5 substitutions, I think that gave everyone a good bit of game time, and there was a couple of telling contributions for some of the subs that came on late in the game.
Craig, we got early goals. So Martin Boyle, there was a few question marks. Remember one of the tweets that I put out when I saw the lineup was, so I like look at that, and I'm looking forward to seeing Doidge and Nisbet together.
Dougie.
Oh, no,
sorry,
that
Doidge.
Come on, sorry, yourself. Yeah, how can you get confused with those two?
No, one of them was called Dougie, for fuck's sake.
One of the tweets that came back was effectively saying, if you play Boyle up front, you'd as well no bother him. And then and then he goes and scores obviously 2 goals. I went to kind of bring that tweet back up just after the second one went in, and the person that kind of just deleted it quietly, deleted the tweet. So fair play to them. They obviously realised they made a bit of an arse it. But I like the look of the lineup. I thought it had a good balance. A lot of pace up front. You play Boyle in the forward role, and you can see obviously it resulted in him causing a wee bit of chaos in the Killie defence. Look at the first goal. Nisbet brings the ball down in midfield.
What a touch that is, by the way. That frothing at the wee man again. That was there's a couple of touches in this game that, like, I don't know if they've gone on, like, maybe not the Scott Allen or the Nisbet touch, but I mean the Nisbet touch was lovely. But he lays off Boyle. It's the touch when he takes it round the keeper. I've just rewatched the highlights over and over again. It's like he doesn't even make the touch. It's as if he's running, and it's just, he knows it's going to hit his foot and where it's going to land in that. It was lovely. And what excited me about it was the fact that obviously we're coming into a new season, first game of the season. We've not had a great pre-season in the sense that it's been quite rushed. And I know Jack Ross is playing it up as, we've got nearly the same amount of minutes and all that, but it's not the same. Like, it's just different. But a lot of Hibs play, especially in the first half, it looked like maybe not match fitness in the sense that actual, like pace and being able to last the 90 minutes at full pelt, but match awareness. It looked like we were sharpy. Like every touch we were taking, it was as if we'd been playing for weeks and weeks. And what I loved about it even more, I think, was the fact that, to be fair, both teams gunning for it. It was like watching with fans there, and there being something to fight for, rather than when like the English Premier League came back and that, and there was nothing. It was just I was watching it and I was like, it's proper football, eh? It's like, I mean, we've seen Hibs pre-season and that at Celtic, and you could tell we were talking about like the defence and that, just kind of giving the ball away, and there was a few kind of lackadaisical touches. There was none of that, eh? It was like everybody was going full pelt, and all credit to Jack Ross and his backroom staff, because they've obviously, and the players first and foremost, because they've obviously gunned it into them, and they've taken that, that it's going to be difficult playing in front of nobody, but give it your all, and they have. So I've got no complaints in that sense.
And the goal, John, so Boyle's taking around the keeper. What's the keeper doing, do you think?
I think Joelle Murray, she commented on it at half time. She thought that he'd maybe been a wee bit, I don't know if she said something along the lines of like keen to impress, or if he maybe, it was maybe like a lack of matter sharpness or whatever, because he did seem to be out there very, very quickly. Like, I don't know if I'd say it was to his credit. Like, he was obviously trying to cut something out. And Boyle's well known for his pace, but Boyle is perhaps one of the most tricky players in that position to try and get the ball off, because as Craig alluded to there, he's taking a touch almost as if he's not taking a touch, and he's by the keeper. Suddenly the keeper's out of the game, and he's pretty much got the goal at his mercy. He's been a wee bit fortunate probably with the player taking a wee bit of a slip in front of him. I thought that Boyle was going to go for the far corner, but he's managed to find perhaps the only space to the right of the defender's foot, and managing to find that near post for his finish.
I'm sure actually puts it through the defender's legs.
It's the two defenders, isn't it? It's the one that's kind of slipped that he's taking it round, and he's still stuck a leg out. I think the ball might have gone under his leg and then to the right of the boy that was on the goal line. Eh? So it's like the finish itself as well was brilliant. I just can't. Oh, I'm getting all excited. Eh? See, thinking about it, it's just like, it's what you want for Hibs. Eh? It's like, I was thinking about it as I was watching it. These are the sort of things that last season wouldn't go our way. Like, especially at the beginning, with Hibs, they're behind the goalie. All right, it is a difficult chance, but he's taking it. But somebody would scaff it off a leg, and it would end up getting
come off inside of the post or something.
You know what I mean? And it just, I don't know. It's just like, it excited me for the rest of the game because it was so early, and I just thought, oh, please, Hibs just continue on, and obviously we'll get on to the next goal. Can we just say Scott Allen's touch as well?
Before we talk about Scott Allen's touch, a wee bit of recognition to McGinn, who kind of shows a good bit of tenacity in typical McGinn style to win the ball back, and then he sort of, even though he's under a bit of pressure, finds Scott Allen with a pass, and then Scott Allen's touch. Craig, go on, you want to talk about it?
Oh, that's all I need to say, innit? It's just wonderful, innit? I mean, again, I'm repeating myself over and over again. It just looks like that. It's that kind of sharpness, that awareness that you would expect after a couple of games in, maybe. Just brilliant. And I've seen people. One thing that I'm going to complain about, people seem to, they were talking about his pass to Martin Boyle's being visionary. There was nobody in front of him.
Oh,
he took
that pass.
He took the ball out the game. But
come on now, sorry, I'll keep you up, he's Matty.
Take yourself out the game. But no, I mean, it's a lovely touch in it, and like the thing after the touch that I love about Scott Allen, and I think maybe Gogic did help in that he seemed to be more as soon as he gets the ball. Whereas last season, like all right, he's made space for himself there. I get that, but he's got the courage to look up. As soon as he gets the ball, he's looked up. He's seen the danger. He's absolutely done him. Done him. And then it's the looking up, and he's looking over, and he sees he's got two passes pushing forward. That's what we want for Scott Allen. We've never really seen a lot of it last season because, all right, he made a couple of wonder passes, but a lot of the time he was getting caught up in the middle, losing the ball, passing it back, making shite passes back. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come. Just keep pressing teams, and we know we can score, can't we? Jack Ross says it all the time. Just keep that press on, but Oh yeah, wonderful, and another great finish.
Well, one of the things that I was talking to my son Josh about, when we were reflecting on the goal, I think you've got to look at Killie's defending, because Alan, once he's taken that midfielder out of the game, he's got all the time in the world to run forward. He runs maybe 20 yards into the Killie half to make the space. And I think, where are the Killie centre halves? Because really, you'd expect one of them to come out to meet him to close that space down. And this is where the clever play comes in, because when you watch it back and you look at the runs that Nisbet and Boyle makes, they both peel off in different directions and occupy the centre half. So the centre halves have got a decision to make. They can either stick with the forwards or they can go and try and stop Scott Allen making the pass. And they went with the forwards, but because they both made intelligent runs, they created space. Nisbet's run was brilliant, and Allen really could have picked either of the two of them and given them both equally as good a chance of scoring. But he picks out Boyle, and Boyle kind of sticks it in at the far corner. It wasn't an easy finish either, John, was it?
No, absolutely not. I don't think it's a finish that Martin Boyle's known for. He's long distance strikes, but he manages to find that far corner. And I think the touch that Craig talked about before and that finish, it kind of shows the mark of the player that Martin Boyle is, because I think by his own admission, he didn't have the best of the poor pre-season preparation that we had, but he assured Jack Ross that he was going to be all guns blazing when the season started, and he proved it. He scored 2 goals. It was brilliant.
We'll talk about Martin Boyle just for a wee second. So one of the things that we talked about, we were watching the game on Saturday, and he scored the second goal, and you could see, a player that's playing at the top of their game.
Yep.
And he looked every bit Hibs star man. He's got the song about being star man, playing on the right and all the rest of it, right? But when McGinn got sold, and McGinn, he was dragging us through games by that point, and you could tell he had kind of outgrown the team, is the right word, but he was definitely at a level where he knew he was the best player in the side. So you could watch McGinn, and he stood out week after week after week. Has Martin Boyle reached that stage, Craig?
I think that is yet to be seen, because they only kind of came in at the end of last season, didn't they? After the injury. I mean, obviously in that game, his confidence was through the roof, and he is brilliant, and he does make a difference for Hibs. But it's the consistency. It's whether that's going to be every week. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say aye. I think he will. And it'll be a question of the Hibs push to keep him, or they're looking for the cash. I think he's given Hibs a bit of a headache, because as much as I agree with you, John, about Hibs, the kind of business structure of bringing in players, developing them, and selling them on, and I wouldn't begrudge him for going. I've said it. He's been a servant, and I'd be happy to see him go and do well elsewhere and make a better living. But he came on first game of the season, and he's been the difference, isn't he? And he's kind of played out of position. He's played brilliantly. Everybody's talking about him, but the only thing that's kind of going against him is the fact that he's 29, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like he could move on, make the money, but he might not make. Say he went to Celtic, he might not play in that Celtic team with how good they looked. If it was Celtic, I think if
shy wingers either them.
No, and I think, I mean, obviously there's only talks of him going to Celtic, but if it was say Rangers that came in, he would probably go on and make a difference in a Rangers team. So it all depends on who comes in for him and whether he's going to get game time as well, because players, as much, I think it's difficult, because some players do go for money and you can tell who they are, and that's fine. That that's what you want, But I don't know if Martin Boyle's the type that's thinking, I'm going to be playing week in, week out here. If I can get a better deal at Hibs, I'm playing my best football. Would he be happier? It's just a difficult one, isn't it? I think I'm maybe holding on because I just want him to stay, but I don't know. I don't
think you'll find a Hibs fan that would want to sell him in. That's
No.
He's popular, and obviously a big influence in the dressing room, and he's come into as good a form as he's probably ever had in his career. You know, he's carried on from where he left off last season. So, you know, I don't want to be premature and start talking about him being in great form when we're, you know, 90 minutes into the new season. But he came back for injury in that form and has carried it on. Right, back to the game. John, we were pretty comfortable. We didn't, you know, Marciano's not had anything to do, and then we give away a free kick right at the end of the first half. Did you have any thoughts on the awarding of the free kick? Do you think that was a legitimate decision?
I missed the awarding of the free kick, so hopefully one of you guys will be able to bring me up to speed on it. But
it was a free kick.
You reckon?
Yeah, it was a free kick. I've just watched it about 10 minutes ago, and I've written down notes because at first, and on a first kind of rewatch, I didn't think it was a free kick either. But I've put down here, Hanlon makes a good challenge because they're trying to get into the box. Hanlon makes a crunching challenge, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's like, it's not so much last ditch; it's just a solid, brilliant. Yeah. And it comes to the Killie boy, and I flowed it down on YouTube and watched it just to make sure that I'm not talking shite. But
it's the Killie player gets the ball, doesn't he?
No, the Killie player gets the ball,
right? And
the Killie player's kind of facing away for the goal that he's shooting at, and Doogie's by him, and basically the Killie player's play. He's not backheeled it, but he's rolled it with his foot behind him to turn 180, and it's a lovely wee touch actually. Like, and he's turned him, and as he's turned round, his trailing foot's been caught by Doogie, and that's what's took him down. So it is a free kick.
Okay.
You know, but I would say it's quite harsh on Doogie because he's actually went in to make a decent challenge, and the boys he's just done him basically. It was a lovely wee turn. But I'll let you carry on, John, with the whole conversation about the wall and whether the keeper could get there, because I've got a wee nugget of information as well. I'm going to say
stuff. So I think Craig put the icing on the cake there with what I was going to say. All I was going to say was that I thought that Gogic had maybe made a wee bit of a mistake, which led to Hanlon putting in his the powder puff challenge that he's known for, and then Doogie's given away the free kick. But like I say, I never saw it. But I didn't think anything of it at the time, but that might be down to some of the camera angles that you were talking about before, Matt. It just looked like a sort of bog standard free kick. And then suddenly Chris Burke's hit this absolute rasper, and it's in the top. Like, I was looking at the ball thinking, oh, that's going over. And then suddenly I can just see the net bulge, and I'm thinking, where did that come from? It didn't look like anything at the time, but with the benefit of hindsight and replays and whatnot, it looked like the wall was a wee bit small. It looked like, in numbers, it looked like Marciano should probably have been lined up a wee bit further to his right, and Kevin Nisbet has sort of like shied away from the ball a wee bit. I thought that maybe it had taken a wee bit of a dink off him that's kind of taken it out of Marciano's reach, but Chris Burke's hit a wonder strike. I mean, there'll be plenty of people that will say that 99 times out of 100 he's not going to score that, but let's not be giving people opportunities like that. It was a simple hit, and not a simple hit, it was a wonder hit, but we've given him that opportunity and he said thanks very much.
See, I think the pace is the point about Nisbet. So I think the speed of that ball was travelling past him. I think even if he wanted to header it, he can header it. Like, I don't think he especially ducks out the way of it. I think it's past him before he kens about it. And I think my own feelings, if we're talking about Ken's Marciano going out with the wrong hand, I think he could have gone out with both hands and a cricket bat and no caught it. Like, I think it was that fast, and you look, it goes more or less bang in the postage stamp.
Yep.
Surely right in the corner, at a rate of knots. I don't think any keeper's saving it. I think it's harsh. You could probably question things, but my point would be, even if Marciano had done everything right in terms of what you would want your goalkeeper to do, he's no saving it. That's my opinion. Craig, your face tells me different. What do you think?
Well, I'm looking forward to this nugget.
I thought the exact same as what you did up until, what are we on now? 40 minutes? About 41 minutes ago.
Right.
And the reason I'm saying this is, they talked about the wall being too small and too big. That's keeper's preference, I mean, it's his preference. If he wants to see more, take a man out. He's at personally for me, he's at a safe enough distance where you can have 3 in the wall and you can see it coming. First point, he's hit. Oh, yeah, it is a wonder strike. There's absolutely no taking away from it. It is a beautiful, beautiful hit. However, watching it back, and now I don't know if any of you were keepers in your previous lives or whatever, but I wasn't. But I was keeping an eye on Marciano and trying to see what was happening as soon as Chris Pucks hit the ball. And it seems to me that, keepers do that thing where they're on their toes and they're getting ready. Marciano, for me, was flat-footed up until the moment. Watch it back, it's daft, but up until the moment where Chris Bucks struck the ball, right? The moment that Chris Bucks struck the ball, he's made a wee jump, just like on the spot as if to be ready. So because he's hit it so well and so quickly, by the time he gets onto his feet and he's able to dive over to make the save, the ball's already halfway there. So I'm thinking if he's a wee bit more alert, I know it's margin, but I think if he's a wee bit more alert, he makes it. I think he's just, I don't know if it's just he's not expected him to hit it that quickly or what have you. I think he can make it. He can make it, and that's what annoys me about it. It's a wonder strike, and there's a good chance that he could get a finger to it and it'll still go in. It's one of those, but just watching it back, that wee nugget there, I thought, oh God, he's but I say by the time that he's actually because he's seen it, it's not as if the walls, because he's got that. What I'm trying to say, I think, is because he's left a man out the wall, he should be able to see what way it's going, which he has done, and I think you can kind of see it in his face that when he's in the kind of middle of that jump and his feet are off the ground and the ball's left the boy's foot, he's like, oh fuck. He's hit this well. He's hit this a lot better than I thought he was going to. So I don't know. But
Craig, there's a boy on, I'm sure it's Sky Sports. He's maybe jumped a bit with BT Sport or whatever. He's called Jamie Carragher, and I ripped the pish at him for years ago for a very insightful piece of analysis. It was exactly like that. It was a goalkeeper. It was at a corner, and you know how they get the big screen out and they've got their wee icons and they slow things down and they zoom in. Jamie Carragher zoomed in on his goalkeeper's feet and he said the reason that goal went in is because he's on an upward spring rather than being ready to go. So I reckon you need to get this file into Sky Sports and get yourself in for that extra analysis. Stunning.
Talk about details.
I'll send you it after, right? But everybody that listens to this podcast, right, it is a wonder strike, and I can't take it away from Chris Burke, right? I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, but have a look. I'm telling you, I'm onto something. Sorry, Rocky, but you've been busted.
Well, it totally changed the complexion of the game anyway. You're sitting comfortable at 2-0, going into half time, no really being troubled. Killie had quite a lot of the ball, and I noticed they were targeting Dougie on the right hand side a lot, but no really getting a lot of joy. A lot of their crosses were coming in early, so they're not getting to the byline, but they're putting some good balls into the box. And I have to say, Porteous and Hanlon pretty much headed everything that came near them away. You couldn't really fault their performance. But that goal changes the complexion of the game. Second half was a totally different game. So, John, what would you have done differently in the second half? What do you think went wrong in the second half if you would acknowledge something went wrong?
When I was chatting about the game and sitting in my mate's house talking about it, we thought that maybe Hibs had gone a little bit less attack minded. They'd maybe moved slightly, maybe more to a sort of like a 4-5-1 or something for their 3-5-2 that they were playing first half. I thought first half we were hitting them on the counter attack really, really effectively, and particularly through the middle of the park, like centre of the park kind of thing. I don't know that I would have done anything differently. Like Hibs Kilmarnock in the last few years have been pretty even games. Like there's not really been much between the two sides. And I think, maybe they started slowly first half and we kind of, we got a couple of goals in there. But second half, they got that goal and they started coming at us. But like you said before, like the stuff that they did, the few chances that they created, I don't remember, like you say, Hanlon, Stevenson, McGinn. Hanlon, Porteous, McGinn being particularly troubled. And I think the worst thing about Marciano's performance was that pair of fruit salads that he was wearing on his hands. Like, he didn't have a save to make that I really remember. Like, I don't
apart from
Hanlon. Aye.
Oh, sorry. Apart from the wee Hanlon
interception.
Yeah. Sorry, I take that back. So credit where it's due to Marciano for being alert enough and being on the balls of his feet to get that one, Craig.
It wasn't in an upward trajectory, was it?
But no, like I don't think I would have done anything differently. And actually, I think again, credit where it's due. I thought that Ross made the best use of the substitutions that were available to him, and he made the best use of the players in his squad that were available to him.
Can we just have a wee shout out to Dougie Tripod, because I thought he had a sterling debut, because
he was very good.
He was up against, if I'm right, he was up against Chris Burke, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
Who's like a seasoned and big, strong pro as well. And I just thought he had a great game, and I'm excited about the prospect of Dougie, because I think you kind of touched on it prior to. I'm pointing at John here because everybody's listening and they can't see what I'm doing, can they? But and you can't see who I'm pointing at because you don't know where you are on my screen, so that was fucking pointless. But no, I think John mentioned it prior to the teams being released, the team sheets being released, that maybe Dougie would get the chance to step in, and him and Lou would share a lot of time to kind of embed him into the team. And was it 60 minutes, I think, he got before Louis came on, something or other about that? I can't really remember the exact time. But I think he more than stood up for the time that he played. And then when Louis came on, Louis looked fresh, and he again made a couple of wonderful challenges. I think it's perfect for him because, I mean, we spoke about him countless times. Lou's getting a wee bit older, and he probably is getting to the point where we need a replacement or somebody fighting for him. And if it can be a young lad, an 18-year-old lad, especially with a nickname like Dougie Tripod, then all the better. All the better.
What I thought would have helped Dougie Tripod out a bit more had Doidge been fit and playing up front with Nisbet, and Boyle been in front of Dougie.
Yeah,
that would help, because I think the way the game panned out, we defended quite narrow. So Gogic, Gogic defending the centre of the midfield. Alan and Newell aren't really renowned for their defensive qualities, but they played quite narrow as well. So we didn't attack on the flanks. And what you'd ideally want, if you've got somebody like Burke and Kilmarnock's team who's getting a lot of the ball, and there's a lot coming down their side, so their fullback was it Millen? Was it? I think it was his name.
Yep.
Was on the right hand side who was putting cross after cross in. What you really want is them to be occupied with your forward and not getting the chance to come forward. So if Boyle isn't getting played up front and we can play him on the wing, I think Doig has much more opportunity to get forward himself. Dougie gets more opportunity to come forward himself, but there's also a lot less pressure on him in a defensive sense as well. I think that was kind of quite key, because you notice later in the game when Horgan comes on and Doidge comes on, I thought Hibs started to regain possession more and actually started to control the game again, because I thought Killie totally dominated the second half without creating any good chances, because they were hitting us on the right hand side all the time. We just didn't have an answer to it other than stopping them getting to the byline, which is what Doig did really well. Boyle on the if Boyle's on the playing in front of him, that's a totally different game. I think we attack much more down the flanks. Also think Scott Allen gave the ball away a few times with kind of daft passes. I think if he's got a natural centre forward in front of him, making a natural centre forwards runs, he finds better passes as well. So I think he's used to being able to pick out Boyle for a pass out wide. If Doidge is there with Nisbet, I think Scott Allen's finding them they bother, especially if the fullbacks are having to worry about wingers on either side. I would have wanted Wright on the other side, pushing forward a bit more as well.
We should have we should be a coaching team, eh? It's a Longbangers coaching team. So we've got Matty as the manager. John can do the motivational speaking, the emotional motivational speaking. I'll do the post-match analysis, and Brian can do the scran.
Aye, right. Right, the new signings. So let's talk about this. Other than seeing out the game, before we come on to the new signings, actually quickly touching this, we saw out the game. So last season we lost, I think, a 2-goal lead to Kilmarnock right at the death. We did it against a couple other teams as well, where we chucked away a lead to draw the game. We saw this one out. Why?
I'm going to let John take this because you've been dying to get on about the defence, haven't you?
Moi? I need. Fuck. Why did we see out the game? Well, while I try and gather my thoughts and come up with some sort of coherent response, it was quite a few points that we managed to drop from losing positions last season. I'm right in saying that. I know that there was someone had done a wee bit of analysis somewhere that was able to point out and say this was the number of points that we lost from winning positions. I can't remember exactly how much that was, but there is a difference. Say that again, sorry?
It was about 400.
Aye, 400,000. So there's one difference there, and that is someone in the middle of the pitch. But like so Craig was talking there about the defence, and I was saying last week that none of the players that we had last season, none of the players that we have now are bad players. I totally believe in the scouting network that we've got, the recruitment team, the manager, all that kind of stuff. Because I know that some of them came in for a lot of stick last season, especially when the most expensive player that we signed last year was sat on the bench at one point against Motherwell. But actually, some of these players like Doidge, Newell, etc., have all come onto a game, and they're all well regarded as being like starting Hibs players now. So talking about Newell there, like I thought that one of the things that he added, particularly in the second half on Saturday, was that I thought that in addition to like he's what seems like quite a natural flair, like he's quite a like not just in terms of how he looks, but I think he's quite an attractive looking footballer. Like he wants to play football. But I thought one of the standout things that he had second half was that I thought he was quite physical, and that physicality in the middle of the pitch frees up a bit more time for the guys behind them. It takes a wee bit of the onus away from them from having to defend all the time. Gogic, we've talked about. Well, sorry, actually, we've not talked about him yet, but he did make a difference in the middle of the pitch. Like you said, Matt, about him sort of patrolling the centre of the pitch and doing that wee bit of, dirty work. But I mentioned 2 or 3 podcasts ago that I didn't just want a guy that did the dirty work. I wanted a guy that was able to play a bit of football as well. Yeah. And Gogic has that thing about him. He's got like the sort of rolled down socks, the mini shin pads. Like the boy can play a bit as well. And he put in challenges that were similar to that Hanlon challenge where he was mopping up for Gogic's wee mistake. It's a team game. You want those guys behind you to do those things when required. Stevenson had that challenge that stopped what was a really good opportunity for Kilmarnock. He just snuffed it out straight away. And I think one of the things that's come into question for Hibs at times as well, particularly after the shambles of the early part of last season, that had a sort of continuing effect was their mentality. Maybe it was the fact that there wasn't fans there that were breathing down their necks. There wasn't anyone there that was starting to, get a wee bit, they weren't shiting themselves. They weren't thinking, Christ, here we go again. They were just like the team had the ability to see that out, and that is going to be a good thing. It's going to give them that chance to rebuild that confidence in themselves. Actually, we came under a bit of pressure. We dealt with it. We can do it again. We'll do it next week, if required.
Motivational speaking. See?
There we go. I'm all G'd up, ready to go. Right, the new signings then. So if we quickly buzz through them before we start kind of looking ahead to the next game against Livi, and I also put a wee thing on Twitter earlier on to name the shit. I don't know if you saw that.
What was that, by the way?
We'll come on to that and go through some of the answers that we got. New signings. Start with Jay Wright. He played in front of McGinn. Craig, what were your thoughts on how Wright got on in his debut?
I thought he played all right. I mean, I don't think he. I think it's difficult because there was three new players that were starting, weren't they? So you're expecting them all to come out all guns blazing and come out with goals and all that sort of stuff. I thought he played all right. He got himself into a few decent positions. Ones that's kind of stuck in my mind. I can't remember who it was that was taking the ball forward, but he had the option to pass to either Boyle or Wright, Nisbet or Wright, I can't remember, and he was up in the box, and I think Wright was actually the better pass, and he'd probably had an opportunity to have a good chance on goal, but obviously the pass went the other way and it never happened. So I think there's signs there that that he is a player. I'm happy with the signing, but it's just one of those ones where I don't think he's had a fireworks start, start where he's been doing everything and all that, because I think John's covered it. It was a pretty overall kind of it was a proper team performance. Apart from Boyle and his goals, I think he never shone through as much as what people would expect a kind of new signing to. But I thought he played well enough. Happy.
I thought he maybe suffered for the fact that most of the game was played on the other side of the pitch. Same with Paul McGinn. He didn't. They weren't that involved in the game because there was so much going on the other side. Out of 15, what would you rate him?
Give him a 10. Good 10.
10 solid 10.
Solid 10. All right. Gogic then. So we spoke about Gogic a wee bit as well. I would say he was more involved than Wright. So John, do you want to take Gogic's performance?
Out of 15 or just in general?
Well, summarise it first and then give us a score.
Summary, I thought he had a cracking game. I thought, I've not been one of those people that's been shouting for the rooftops and saying we need this central defensive midfield or whatever. But I think he provides a bit of balance. He allowed Newell and Allen to do the things that they do best. He was hard in the challenge. He took the ball forward a couple of times. There was one drop of the shoulder that I seem to remember where he's kind of drifted past the boy and then he set up an attack and move. It didn't turn into a goal, but it was that positive thing that you want from Hibs. Overall, I'd probably give him a 12 out of 15, which maybe makes Dre Wright's score maybe seem a wee bit too high, but it was a good performance for him. I like the look of him.
I think his attempt on goal merits taking 3 points off the boy.
Was that the header?
Oh God, it was 50 pence head, wasn't it?
We had a boy at school who used to call 50 pence head. There you go. Everybody's had a boy at school that was a 50 pence header. Right, so did you score him out of the 15, Craig? You never give us a figure there, did you?
12.
12.
I'll go with 12.
I'm going to give him 13. I thought he was really good. Out of the 3 new signings, I thought he was the pick. Nisbet was the other one. Craig, how do you think he got him?
Again, I think he had that wonderful touch for the first goal. I think he made a lot of the right runs, right moves. Maybe not so much that he suffered because we played it all down the other side, but I think a lot more balls were getting put into Martin Boyle rather than him, but he was making the runs that was kind of opening up the defence and allowing that. So I think his match awareness, I think, again, more so probably than Dre Wright, you're wanting a goal, aren't you? Especially when you put him as your captain on Fantasy Football Scotland and triple captain him as well. Cheers for that. But no, you're wanting a goal out of him, aren't you? Because he's a striker. But no, I thought he had a really solid game. There was a couple of wee bits here and there, but I mean, I think I could maybe counted 2 strikes that he had on goal that I think were maybe a wee bit. I don't want to. Yeah, and I think it was more that I wouldn't say that he's not got it in his locker. I think it's that first game. I'm a striker. I want to get going. But I'll give him that. You know what I mean? I think anybody in his boots would have done that. So I'd probably give him. Oh, if I've given Gogic a 12 and Dre a 10, I'll give him an 11. Just because I think he did have a good game and that touch was unbelievable. But
a nice assist as well, wasn't it? Really to Boyle. John, your score?
The same. I thought that Nisbet was. I actually wrote the same comment for him and McGinn. Solid, unspectacular, but key contributions in terms of the 2 goals. Nisbet's been physical in getting the boy off the ball. He's played in Boyle, which is exactly what McGinn done in winning the challenge, feeding the ball to Allen, who's then, he's given it to the attacking player, let them go do what they do best. So I'd give him 11. I thought it was a really positive showing for Nisbet for his first game in what were strange circumstances, with it being, his home debut, but there being no one there to watch him.
I noticed a comment from one of my mates on Twitter earlier on. See, the stadium announcer was there on Saturday.
Oh, Barry Wilkins, aye.
Aye. Why do you think we did that?
there's going to be some sort of mental SFA or UEFA rule that says that there must be someone that reads out the team names.
In fact, I've just had a wee flashback here. Can we have a shout out for the guy who does the crowd noises, because there wasn't a big cheer for the first goal until they were away and pretty much finished celebrating. So if that was the Hibs announcer, get your act together, because that was funny. I'll send you the video that I watched, the highlights there, where we can analyse the keeper doing this business. For everybody listening, I'm pretending to jump up and down rather than going sideways. And you'll hear it on there, because it's the SPFL one where there's no commentary and that on it. And it's amazing. It's literally about 20 seconds after the goal. It's like, oh, hey!
You think that's what you're sitting? You forget that you're meant to be doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're kind of going, it's a decent. I've got to stay them to myself here. The feet are up. Do you know, you're stretched out over a couple of seats, and the goal's gone in. You're up, getting a wee clap and everything, and oh fuck, I've got a job. What? I think they announced how much injury time there was and everything as well. So I don't know. You could be right. It could be that it's regulation that we needed to have them there. I never noticed if they had them at the other games as well.
There's a point as well, by the way. Sorry, I'm just kind of like my brain's firing off here. Man of the match announced at like 75 minutes or something.
What's that about? But who else was going to get it? Do you know what I mean? Like, he's already got 2 goals.
I wouldn't be able to name like players or teams, but there was loads of people saying, "Oh, you know, remember these games where somebody scored a hat trick in the last, you know, to change. If Killie, if somebody came on for Killie and scored 3 goals or something after that, like, I don't know. It's one of those. Like, why would you? I don't know.
Because the boys wanted to beat the traffic and the crowd leaving the game.
Yeah.
Right, boys, that's it. That's the man of the match done. We can go home now.
Probably second, I forgot about the goal. I'll just get this out of the way while I remember it.
Maybe it was just to give them enough time to get a wee cheer in for them.
Aye. A worthy winner of the man of the match, I think, Boyle?
Definitely.
I think there was too many arguments about it. Right, well, we'll go to Livingston on Saturday on the plastic pitch where we tend not to fare too well. Who wants to start? Craig, I'll go to you first. What do you think will happen on Saturday then? How would you set up?
I think Saturday's going to be really difficult for Hibs. And the 2 reasons I think that is: 1, the pitch, and 2, because the Livi manager came out post their match. I listened to all their interviews, and he didn't quite demolish them in the press because it's the first game of the season, but he kind of laid it on thick that he thought the team didn't play as a team, and they were relying, or they were hoping that Lyndon Dykes would change the game for them rather than play as a team.
Yeah.
And with that being Marvin Bartley's first game as captain, that'll hurt Marvin. And with Hibs coming, like, you know, he knows Hibs, and we know Marvin and the type of character that he is. He's going to have them G'd up. They're going to come out all guns blazing on Saturday. And I don't think Marvin would accept anything less of the Livi team. So I think for us it's going to be difficult. I think that they're probably, I don't want to say that they're going to be anti-football, but I think they'll probably look at Hibs' first half and say, you know, they're playing quite open in that. Just stop them from playing. Don't worry about us passing it around them and all that. And with that kind of aggression that Bartley will, I think, you know, at least the start of the game anyway, I think it's going to be quite dogged. They're going to be right on our heels, not allowing us to pass about, and it's just going to be one of those games, that it'll take a good 20 minutes for, I think, at least for Hibs to settle in, and hopefully we do. And then if we do, I think we can move on and you know, get a win. But I think if we get a wee bit shocked by it and Livi manage to control us the way that I think that they're going to try and control the game, then we might struggle. But I'm ever the pessimist, glass half empty and all that.
What about you, John? Where do you see the key battles being on Saturday?
The midfield's got to be a shout for the reasons that Craig mentioned before, with Bartley in the middle. The defeat that they had last week to Mirren, and obviously I don't think Hibs are going to be the pushover in midfield that they have been previously. Like I mentioned Gogic before in terms of like the, not just being the hard man in midfield, but if anyone starts to get a bit testy in midfield for Livingston, then we've got the Mad Monk in there, or Roy Keane for 1998 ready to go at them. So I think, or I wonder rather, if am I right in saying that Livingston prior to last season, that was their first season in the SPL after being promoted? Is that right?
It was, yeah.
Aye. I think sometimes, and I hope this rings true on Saturday. Quite often, you find in football that newly promoted teams have a wee bit of a bounce, because sometimes the other teams aren't quite sure how to go against them because they're a wee bit of an unknown quantity. But now that, like, Hibs, a lot of Hibs players will have played against Livingston last year. They've played in the plastic pitch. They'll have, they'll know what to expect. I'm kind of optimistic. I'm optimistic of getting a result there. And
hang on a minute. It's a derby.
What? No, it's not.
Aye.
It's the derby.
The Lothians derby.
Well,
I think Deutsch starting will be the key thing, because I go back to what I was saying. If we can get Boyle out wide and Deutsch up front with Nisbet, I think we'll win, and I think we'll probably win by a couple of goals if we can defend like we defended on Saturday, and we get our two main goal scorers on the pitch and Boyle. Then I think we'll have too much firepower for them. I think we have the potential when everybody's fit and up to speed. I think we've got the potential firepower and like front line to do a job on teams like Celtic did on Hamilton at the weekend, where they looked like they could score everything they went forward. So I'm not suggesting we're going to put 5 past Livi, but I think we've got a team now that's capable of creating chance after chance after chance in a game. And if Deutsch repeats his goal scoring form that he finished last season on, and Nisbet does what he did last season, we've got a ton of goals in the team, especially when you've got Boyle in there as well. So I'm not predicting, don't get me wrong, not predicting that we're going to put 5 past Livi, but I think if we can get our key players on the pitch to start off with and have them where they're meant to be, so no putting Boyle up front. I don't have any problem with Boyle playing up front, but I think he's more effective wide. I think we've got potential to do a lot of damage, and I would probably bring Horgan in as well, because I thought Horgan was excellent when he came on Saturday. He's been excellent in pre-season, so I would probably put Horgan on one side, Boyle another, Deutsch and Nisbet up front, and probably keep my midfield 3 the same with Gogic, Newell and Allen. I think there's a ton of goals there potentially if we can play.
This is why, and this is why you're the manager, you're the motivational speaker, and I do the post-match analysis, because I'm talking shite, you've talked me down, and I'm happy. I'm ready for it now. I'm ready for it.
That would probably be my only change to make there. The rest are quite happy with Badugi starting at left back again, or on the left hand side of the defence anyway. The rest of the team fine, but that's if I could get those players on the pitch in an attacking sense, I would just go all guns blazing and just try and get a few goals under our belt. It was nice, like, even though it was only 2 goals that we scored, it put us top of the league for a wee bit, overnight. And I think if a team stays at the top end of the table, it stands to reason. It's going to be captain obvious here, but the longer you can stay at the top of the table, the more confident you get, the more belief you get in what you're doing. So if we can get a few goals, get 3 points again, I think it's the start of something big for us.
I think the only difference, I fully agree, but I think the only difference I would maybe make is I would have Dre Wright instead of Horgan starting, just because I think he did have a good game. He's a new signing, and I'm kind of begrudged to put new signings on the bench early doors and kind of, get them down. Like, Horgan came on and he made a difference, and he's been brilliant, and there's no denying that. But I think, mentally he'd probably be a wee bit happier staying on the bench and coming on and making a difference.
To be fair, Horgan's always at his best off the bench as well, isn't he? Like Josh always says the best way, if you want to get a good performance out of Horgan, is to start him on the bench and put him on after the minutes played. So he's a sub. Aye. Right, score prediction then, John.
I think I said 2-0 last week, so I'm going to go for 2-0 again.
Good, Craig.
Before you gave me the chat, I was thinking like a 1-1 scrappy, shitty plastic pitch goal, but I'm going 4-0 Hibs.
4-0 Hibs.
4-0 Hibs, and I'm going to call. Oh, Nisbet hat-trick.
Quality.
Confident.
I'm going for a 0-0.
Save the 5 goals for next week, Matty.
If we have those wingers and those two strikers, the firepower that we have.
I think Livi's game plan would be similar to Killie's in that they'll try and fire crosses into the box, and I think they'll do that because last season we were dead weak at it. But I think if we force them out wide and defend like we did, we've got a good chance of keeping a clean sheet. I'll go 2-0 Hibs. I think that's fair enough. Right, next item that we've got on the agenda. On Twitter earlier on, so Neil Renton, who's a good friend of the podcast and sometimes guest on it, had discovered on his outside sofa type thing an unusual looking turd. Or a Richard. It was sat on the sofa. He couldn't quite make out what had left it there. So we put it out to the Twitterverse and asked for suggestions on it. So once in 1978, he said Douglas Ross left it. the news. Of course, we've got Anne Budge. That's from Bruce Gorey. I think why she would have been in Renton's Neil's back garden. Jack Callard said St Gallen announced Canberra on a 3-year deal, so that was their announcement thing. Kunster's dog, Parmaham said that it was that Kunster's dog that left that. I quite like that idea. Another shout for Canberra. Gordon Mackay, is that not what Craig Levine did in the dressing room in 1986?
Oh,
It's Kenny Clark. No, Kenny's a good lad. Chris Commons' latest article for the Scum linking another Hibs player to the old firm. Jack Callard.
What is that all about? 250 grand?
I mean, Chris Commons, right? He falls into the same category as Andy Walker, right? So Andy Walker and Chris Commons both played for Hibs, and normally by definition that makes them a good guy, and you cut them a wee bit slack. He's an idiot though. Like I can't stand Andy Walker. Andy Walker is the worst of the worst. Like he does this thing, and once you notice it, you'll always notice it. And so I apologise to everybody who, if you didn't already like him, this is going to ruin you listening to him in the future. He doesn't ken when to start and stop a sentence. Like he gets all excited in the first two words, pauses for a wee second, but it could be like, I'm going to the shops for, and he's really is that like you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, shut up, or just say the whole sentence the way it's meant to be said. Stop putting exclamation marks after 3 words and fucking pausing for a bit.
But I mean, if you've ever
but Chris Commons, you read that and you just think, fuck off. Like there isn't a more apt 2-word response to that article than that. I think what he was thinking.
Prick.
250 grand. That's what I said. Like, you want to play that game, Hibs should chuck in a 250 grand bid for Edouard, and then see if he wants to come east the road.
What to be serious about it, what annoys me about this is, right, this is somebody who's played in Scotland for so many years. He's a pundit for Scottish football. He's played for Hibs as well, but selling fucking players short. Why are you underselling the game? I mean, all right, there's green tinted specs. We might want a lot more than what people might actually think Boyle's worth. But surely if you're trying to sell the game as a whole, putting like teams' best players down at 250 grand and that, it just makes it look tin pot, doesn't it? Like,
you think so? Celtic will try and shop in either the Premier League, English Premier League reserve market, where they're looking at who was looking at a striker from one of the London clubs, I think, West Ham. Like one of the West Ham players that they're going to either try to get on loan or spend like a few £1 million to get him. This is a guy that kind of get a game for the first team. Or they'll go to the Championship, which is again where Rangers have looked. They've signed a boy that played for Leeds and I'm not sure how much they've spent to get him, but if Boyle was in a championship team, I think Boyle could play comfortably in an English championship team and perform well. Celtic and Rangers going to buy them are paying millions because of the market that they're not necessarily that he's a multi-million-pound player, but if they wanted that level of player for a championship club, they'd pay millions for him. And you've got Chris Commons saying sell him for 250 grand, and as if Hibs will be grateful for that. It's an absolute nonsense. It's time pundits started talking up the players. You're totally right. Didn't run the game down up here. Start talking the players up. Start getting value for the clubs that are. We will always be a selling club, right? There's no two ways about it. Hibs will always be a selling club. But start talking up and make sure that these clubs, like Hibs, get value for the players, so that we're not having the kind of thing that we should be grateful for getting 250 grand for our best player. It's a total farce. With comments, even when he played for us, dickhead.
Back to the big black shite.
Back to Jack Callard, who mentioned about St Gallen, using that as their announcement that they've signed Canberra. He says, what would have been better? Canberra makes the bench for St Gallen debut. I've let myself down. Good luck with the recording. You didn't let anybody. You redeemed yourself, Jack, with that one. Neil Renton himself says, wait, I've discovered what it is. It's my Fantasy Scotland team in real life form. And he's put a wee screenshot of how bad his team was for fantasy football. Mike Berry and Budge's lawyer, it's their case against the SPFL. I think it's probably an upgrade on their case for the SPFL, if I'm honest.
It can't be their case for the SPFL because nobody in the public can see it, can
they? Somebody put Morris Johnson. There's a little bit of green and a little bit of blue in it.
Oh, clever.
That's a late one. Right, I think that's all of them. John, you have any ideas of what could have left it?
I suggested that it was Craig after munching Abernethy biscuits washed down with Tennant's lager last week.
Decent show. That got some criticism, didn't it? That.
And too right it did as well because it tasted fucking disgusting. Two things that taste so good that you would think, no, God, no.
Just the maximum. Craig, what do you think left it?
Oh, fuck knows. A dying fox.
Wow.
Absolutely. I only seen it just before I came on, and I was like,
I thought it might have been Stephen Gerrard might have gone into his perma-turd. They kind of commented after the game in the Rangers Aberdeen game. Aberdeen Rangers, that was that. But by the way, how shite were Aberdeen? I think if you saw in that game,
nearly as bad as their collar. Fuck me.
We had you just at the start of the season, you always kind of fancy Aberdeen to be up there. I watched that. I was like, we've got nothing to fear. Famous last words, there, right? But
well, do you know what I was thinking?
Nothing to fear when we play Aberdeen. They were awful.
Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen. You know what? It's very early doors, 90 minutes into the season and that, but if that's a sign of things to come, come on, Hibs, like let's start pushing for it, because like if teams like that can have performances like that, you should not be going and feeding them in any way. You shouldn't be playing to their game. Take them on. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the things I noticed during that game was Stephen Gerrard. He has a face like he's always trying to squeeze out a tricky poo. Do you know, like it's like it's broken halfway out when he's gone, and it's no far enough out for gravity to take hold and get the rest of it, and it's too far out for him to just wipe it out. He's going to be there all day. So now he has this grimacy face and he's stuck with it. That's why it's a tricky job. He's stuck with it, and that's why he looks like he looks. And so I think you need look no further than Stephen Gerrard for who made the mess on Neil's outside sofa thing.
Oh, dear.
Aye. Right, that's probably a good place to wrap up for the night, then.
It seems like it.
Stephen Gerrard's perma-turd.
Is that the name of is that the title of the podcast?
I think so. Right? We could go with that one. There was funny. There had a wee sort of private Twitter conversation with a guy called Stuart. It's Classen. I think he's been featured on the show before with something, and we were talking about Petrie coming back. He said there's no kind of great timing for Rod Petrie to be coming back to his job at the SFA just in time for a certain club to be getting their disciplinary hearing heard. You know, like he's managed to dodge all the arbitration thing. Like he's like it came up by his out. You take this, but I don't want to get involved in it. You know, we'll get labelled with all sorts. But he's like, actually, this lesser bit, but it's just about the punishment. I'm fighting now. I'm better. Work again. And one of the phrases that he Stuart had tweeted in a message was "sweet moustached justice." I was like, well, that's a great podcast title as well, isn't it?
Sweet moustachioed justice. I'm all for it.
So, and then kind of toss it between Gerard's permaturd and sweet moustached justice. I'll play by ear. I'll see. And we'll go with that. Anyway, right. We have got, assuming everybody's available and all things go to plan, we'll have another podcast this week where we'll be speaking to Kieran Power, who's doing a great job as the fans rep director at Hibs as well. So we've lined up a wee chat with him, and we'll publish that as soon as we can. Other than that, hope everybody enjoys the game on Saturday and we get the 3 points. We'll be back to talk about all the action and preview the Dundee United game next week. So thanks for joining us. Craig, John, thanks very much for your time as well. And we'll see you next time.